How is it that the wealthiest country in the world has such a screwed up healthcare system? After 35 years in the healthcare industry, I decided to retire and share my secrets with you. I'm Chuck Melendi, and this is Disruptive Dialogue. Hey everybody, my name's Chuck Melendi. I am recently retired from the healthcare industry, and if you're watching me on YouTube, you'll see that I have a tasty beverage in front of me because I am supposed to be retired, but I'm not. I know too much about the healthcare industry and what it's doing to America and to all our friends and family. So I'm still passionate, still have a little bit of energy at the age of 60, and I'm coming to you to talk about the healthcare industry, but I'm also going to have fun, which is why today I am drinking a Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. And I love one of my favorite drink coasters that says, "Thank you, craft brew industry, for making my drinking problem a pretty cool habit," or hobby, I should say. So look, what is this podcast about? The podcast is about U.S. healthcare and the healthcare system. And as far as I'm concerned, it has become the biggest issue of our time. The high cost of healthcare impacts all of us every single day. Not only does it hurt us as patients, but it hurts our country, it hurts our economy, it is contributing to inflation, and quite literally, it's killing patients every single day. Wall Street built this beast, and Washington has allowed it to grow. We're now left with a system that is more expensive than any other healthcare system in the world, but is not as good as nearly all developed countries in the world. It's time for us to stop this. It's time for us to tear this system down and change it or find something new. The name of my podcast is called Disruptive Dialogue, and the mission is to disrupt the current state of the U.S. healthcare system, where greed and secrecy have put profits ahead of patients and made America one of the sickest countries in the world. So you may say, well, who is this guy? Well, look, my name is Chuck Melendi. I've been in the healthcare industry for about 35 years. The last 25, I've been with Johnson & Johnson. I've been in a bunch of roles with J&J that exposed me to the underbelly of our industry and have given me insights that I'm going to share with you every week on this podcast. I actually got to live in Europe from 2006 to 2008. Where my wife and I were raising two kids. So we got a glimpse of another healthcare system that's outside the U.S. so I can compare. For nearly a decade, I negotiated drug prices with insurance companies and pharmacy benefit managers. You're going to hear that term a lot. I might call them PBMs or pharmacy benefit managers. They are actually the ones that determine what drugs that you can get and how much they cost. And they have either bought insurance companies or the insurance companies have bought them, and they are together. I saw firsthand over 15 years how these middlemen went from us negotiating with them and not giving them much because all they were doing is administrative stuff to they are now so powerful and make so much money, they are running this industry. The last 8 years with Johnson & Johnson, I was in a role which is called the Policy and Advocacy Director. And what I would do is I would go to medical societies and talk to physicians and advanced practitioners. I would go to a pharmacist. I would go to employers. I would go to patient advocacy organizations and talk to them about affordability and access for pharmaceutical drugs and why they were expensive and why they were having a hard time getting them. And then we would go to the state capitol and we would try and talk to legislators to get them to change laws to fix it. But I will tell you, it is an uphill battle. So what can you expect from my podcast? Well, I can tell you right now, I had lunch with a good friend of mine a couple months ago. Her name is Karen Von Khalil, and she runs the Employer Coalition in Florida. And when I told her I was leaving Johnson & Johnson to start my own podcast, she says, "What's the name? Chuck Unhinged?" And I laughed and I'm like, no. That's kind of what it's going to be, and I like that name, but it's going to be Disruptive Dialogue. What you're going to find out is I am extremely passionate and I am very upset with what is going on in the country with healthcare. Yes, I work for a drug manufacturer, but everybody is on the table. I don't care who you are. I am calling you out. I like my industry. There's a lot of good people there. They have things they can do better as well. However, I've got a bunch of attorneys, because we all have a bunch of attorneys, my cadre of lawyers, my ragtag legal team of Sterno, Ose, Stubbe, Barnes, and Tamargo. They've told me a couple things. I have to say things like allegedly. I have to say things like in my opinion. But I also have to be factual in what I say and what I share with you. I can tell you right now, I'm going to call out players. And if I say that you suck, that you are killing us, that you are doing harmful things, that's my opinion. Or allegedly. But it's going to come from facts, because there are so many things happening right now and lawsuits flying around, and the Department of Justice and the government is going after hospitals, insurers, PBMs, because they are doing egregious things. These are all facts. As I go through my podcast, you are going to hear me say things that you're like, there is no way that's true. Look, we have the internet. As my mom would say, go to the Google, okay? If you don't believe me, just Google it, because I will tell you right now, it's true. These companies spend millions and millions of dollars trying to tell us that our healthcare is great, that they're there to make it simple and give us good access, and that everybody's happy with it. Employers, it's bullshit, okay? I talk to people who work for hospitals. I talk to people who work for insurance companies and PBMs, people who work for manufacturers. I talk to patients. When people hear that I'm going to do this podcast, they start to ramble off all the issues that they have with the healthcare system. So look, there are a bunch of good podcasts out there on healthcare. I listen to a ton of them, and they're great, but they really and truly are targeted toward healthcare professionals or the C-suite of employers, because this is a big issue these days with employers. My podcast is not targeted to that. My phenomenal producer said, well, Chuck, who is your target audience? My target audience is you. My target audience is the police officer, the teacher, the salesman, everybody who is too busy doing their job to really dig into healthcare. I'm going to dig into healthcare. I'm going to rely on my 35 years in the industry, and I will try and bring it to you and distill it to you in a manner that you understand. So my daughters are hilarious. I have two daughters in their 20s that said, Dad, if you're going to do this, you can do it. Try to keep it below 30 minutes. And don't just rant. You need to provide solutions. So I promise you, I'll rant a little bit, but I will try and give you solutions to each one. So let's see what else. I'm going to be passionate on the show. I'm not going to protect anybody in the system. I have friends in every sector. Too bad. No one is sponsoring me. This is on my own dime. I am not letting anyone influence me. Look, I've been working since I was 8 years old mowing yards. So I'm 60. I've been working hard for 52 years. I finally retired. I retired early because I want to do something to make a difference. So lastly, I can get on here. I can rant. I can tell you all kinds of things that I know. But unless you get involved, nothing's going to change. You need to share this podcast with your friends. I'm not making any money on it. People need to know what's going on. You need to reach out to your local legislators. If you have a federal legislator, reach out to them. If you know somebody in the media, reach out to them. Look, we have to act on this. This is weighing us down. I'm going to walk through how, but I don't have to tell you. You live it every day. 1 second, I'm going to take a sip of my beer. Okay, so my first podcast is called The Wake Up Call. So, bottom line, Americans are being ripped off when it comes to healthcare. Our country, and we love to say we're the best at everything. We're not with healthcare. We spend twice as much as almost any other developed country in the world. And they did a survey and study of 10 developed countries. Guess what? We finished 10th. That's with us spending almost $5 trillion in healthcare last year alone. And look, you might go, well, I'm healthy and it's those people that aren't taking care of themselves and blah, 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 and it's not impacting me. Yes, it is. Think about this. Healthcare is costing us $5 trillion a year. It has become the second largest expense to employers, only behind salaries and wages. It costs individuals and employers, for a family of four, $25,000 a year to pay for health insurance. Individuals between $10,000 and $15,000 a year. That is a huge tax. And you know what that does? That holds down our wages. That makes our cost of goods sold much more expensive because we have to absorb it. And on the global marketplace, these other countries that we compete with, Germany, the Netherlands, Japan, their employers are not picking up the bill. So if you don't think high healthcare costs are hurting you, that they are a big piece of inflation, you are wrong. And look, here's how bad it's gotten. I talked to a ton of physicians, and physicians don't get paid a lot to take care of Medicare patients. But now they tell me they would rather treat a Medicare patient than a commercial patient because the insurance companies make it so hard for them to get a treatment approved, a service approved. And once they get it approved and they do it, sometimes your insurer comes back and goes, I'm not going to pay you for it. That's called a clawback. There's all kinds of crazy shit. This is one reason why we don't have a bunch of physicians all over the place, because they're burning out. It's because of these insurance companies. It is ridiculous. The fact that they will get paid less to treat Medicare patients than a commercial patient because it's so hard to treat a commercial patient these days is ridiculous. There was a study that showed in 2023, physicians across our country had to pay out over $2 billion for their staff time to handle insurance prior authorizations and all the other stuff that they make them do. The CBO, the Congressional Business Office, just came out and said it costs our government 22% more for a patient treated by a Medicare Advantage plan than by fee-for-service Medicare. So not only did the private payers say, oh, we're going to make it more efficient, we're going to do it better and less expensive. No, it's worse and it's more expensive. So what's the fallout? There's right now you're saying, so what? Well, I'll tell you what, these middlemen in our healthcare industry, not only are they destroying our healthcare system, but in my opinion, I said that, they are tearing our country apart for their financial gain. As I already mentioned, physicians are burning out because they have such a hard time to practice medicine, which is why if you want to go see a doc, it takes 1, 2, 3 months to go see a doc. Independent pharmacies are going out of business. How often do you see a mom and pop pharmacy? Guess what? They are the ones that take the time to walk you through your prescription. You walk into a CVS, you walk into a Walgreens or these big conglomerate pharmacies. God bless those pharmacists. They don't know any better. They're doing as the best they can, but they are understaffed because these huge companies won't pay enough for them to be taken care of. And so you're having to wait for your pharmacist, and then they give it to you and it's rushed and they are stressed out. I feel so bad for them. Your independent pharmacists, they have enough people to take care of you, but they're disappearing at almost 1,000 independent pharmacies every year, because PBMs and insurers pay them less than they pay their own insurers, even though states are passing laws that tell them not to do that. Employers continue to face rising healthcare costs. Look, if an employer has to pay so much for healthcare, they consider that part of your pay. That's going to hold down your wages. And like I already said, it increased the cost of good. And look, at the end of the day, we pay for healthcare. When we get sick, we should be able to have our health taken care of, done fairly efficiently, fairly well, and at a decent cost. But you know what? It's costing so much, even if you're insured, that some people just don't get the care they need. Or some people will just go ahead and say, I have no choice. Okay, I had a stroke, I have a heart attack, got to go to the hospital, and now you go into medical debt. I had a conversation the other day with a friend of mine, and this is crazy. His spouse had to go in for a procedure. And it came up that how long it takes to wait in a hospital when you get in trouble. I was at dinner with a friend. This is like within the past month. During dinner, my friend had an episode and they literally passed out and scared all of us. So we had an ambulance come and he had revived by the time they got there. And quite honestly, he got his faculties together and he was good. But guess what? he's not going to go to the hospital. He's not going to take the ambulance because you know what? The ambulance is probably going to cost $3,000 to $5,000. Then he's going to go to the hospital and he's going to wait on a gurney in the hallway for 6, 8, 10 hours because hospitals are understaffed. Thank you, CEOs and boards of hospitals. And when I was telling my other friend that, who had the spouse and going through the procedure, he goes, oh my God, I can't believe you said that because we went to the hospital 2 weeks ago, exact same thing. We got there at 6 o'clock at night and we're there till 2 a.m. That's not a good healthcare system. So why are we paying so much for it? This isn't a partisan issue. This isn't about left, right, whatever. This impacts all of us. It is hurting our health. It's hurting our businesses. It's hurting our country. So my brother-in-law called me the other day and he was just railing on the healthcare industry. And he goes, you know what? All you need to do is follow the money. So teaser for my next episode, it's actually going to be, let's follow the money. And I'm going to give you a couple small facts. And look, starting the next episode, if you like what I say, first off, you can watch me on YouTube. I have a face for radio, but whatever. But we also have a website and I will have the show notes as well as slides for each episode on our website. And I'm creating some really cool slides. And look, when I talk about money, I went to the Fortune 500 list and they list out top companies in the country. They list out how much they make. So this isn't coming from some partisan, a biased opinion. Over $2 trillion, two with a T, $1 trillion, 8 companies. That's in a system that's failing. That's hurting our economy. That's hurting our competitiveness in the global marketplace. I mean, how is that possible? And yet, think about it. Countries outside the U.S. where healthcare costs are much less and their health outcomes are better. How's that happening? They really and truly have created these incredible monopolies that, thank you, Washington, for not being at the wheel and letting all this happen. And now you have to hopefully break them up or do something. But these companies are siphoning off so much money. And guess what? You don't go to them if you're sick. You go to a physician. You go to a hospital. You need a nurse. You need a pharmacist. Hell, you even need like device manufacturers to make devices. You need drug manufacturers to make drugs. But what? These insurance companies, these PBMs, all they do is administer stuff and they're making more money than anybody. That's the next episode. So, like I said, you need to get involved. They make so much money that they have so many lobbyists. People talk about pharma, the manufacturers we are dwarfed. And I say we because I just retired. Manufacturers are dwarfed by the lobbyists that come from the insurance companies and PBMs and the money that they give. However, if your legislators hear you and hundreds of your peers call and complain about them, they will take notice. On a side note, this is great. This is the lengths that they will go to make money. I read an article, and we all know about the GLP-1s, the Wegovy and Ozempic, and these weight loss drugs. Look, I wish that we did not need drugs to help us lose weight, but and this will be in a future episode. Our food supply is crap over here. I lived in Europe for 2 years. They don't have all the additives. They don't have all the shit that they put in our foods that make us addicted to food. Hell, in the US, we exercise more than they do in Europe, but they're thinner over there. The food's different. And guess what? So many of the things that are in our food are not allowed over there in Europe. We've been getting poisoned. Look, I'm not trying to give you a way out or an excuse. But what we put in our body, the food industries in our country are putting in our body, it is killing us. It is making us fat. These weight loss drugs, I wish we didn't need them, but I have a bunch of friends who have started to take it because I'm like, holy crap, what are you doing? You've lost weight. And they'll say, I'm taking Ozempic or Wegovy or one of these GLP-1s. The insurers just came out because Medicare and Medicaid, the government is thinking about making these drugs available to those two populations. And the insurance companies actually came out the very next day and said, you know what? If you do that, we're going to have to raise our premiums because it's going to be so expensive. But we may actually just sue the government because you should not be making those available. We really don't know all the side effects. Well, okay, so let's see. If people lose a ton of weight, all of a sudden diabetes will go down. heart disease will go down. Hypertension, less heart attacks. Wrap all that up. Depression. Oh shit, people are getting healthy? That's not good for business. We need them to be sick. So we'll just sue the government and not let certain things come to market that can make people healthy. I know I'm talking and you may hear this and go, oh God, this is so depressing. Like I used to give talks to physicians weekly and they would be like, okay, I need a Xanax because you just depressed me with what's going on. But look, there is hope. There are a ton of good people working on these issues. Hell, I'm going to give a shout out to some people. Mark Cuban, God bless you. This is at least a billionaire. He could be on his yacht, flying in to go see the Mavs, but he saw what's going on and he's a true disruptor in this system. And because he's Mark Cuban and a billionaire and owns the Mavs and he started his own pharmacy benefit manager, or PBM, he has brought a nice spotlight to this issue that people are paying attention to. And it's just unbelievable. He'll tell you stories and his CEO will tell you stories that they have a drug that they get at cost for like $30 and sell for like $45 a month. And an insurance company is selling that same drug to you for like $3,000 a month. It's insane. There's also Marty Makary. You may not know who he is. He's a surgeon out of Johns Hopkins. He has just been nominated to be the next director of the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration. This guy is great. I read his first book, 8-10 years ago. It's called Unaccountable. You should read it. It is about the hospital systems in our country. And he is not afraid to call out his peers and hospital systems and how they need to get better. And that's the type of people we need. There are politicians that are starting to see the light. And this is on both sides. You have Republicans like Bill Cassidy out of Louisiana, Buddy Carter, rock star out of Georgia. Democrats like Kathy Castor here in Tampa. I mean, she's trying to help with patient copay assistance programs and preserve those. Even Elizabeth Warren. Yes, I know far right people are going to go, oh, she's far left. I don't care. She's actually talking that these huge companies might need to be broken up. Hallelujah. So there is hope. But it's going to take more than just a few politicians to change things. These companies, like I said earlier, they're huge. They have huge influence in our state capitals and also in Washington. So you have to get involved. Like I said, this isn't a partisan issue. I don't care if you're conservative, liberal, far left, far right. You're an American. We're being ripped off. You know, my wife, who's awesome, is creating this website. So we're going to have tools on there. I'm going to try and make it really easy where you can click on a little link, put in your zip code, and your legislator will come up. I'm going to create letters that you can then copy and paste, sign your name and say, this is happening to me. Boom, done. If we start to do that and inundate the politicians and their staffers, they will wake up. So look, I'm calling out people in healthcare and these companies. What I like to say is don't hate the player, hate the game. We're in America. We're always told make as much money as you can. The system is broken. I have dear friends that work in pharmaceutical manufacturing companies. Let me tell you, these are good people. They're smart people. They're trying to bring life-changing medicines to you every day, and many of you have been impacted positively by it. I'm going to rail on hospital systems, but the doctors, the nurses, the pharmacists working in those systems, they are overworked, they are understaffed, and if they could tell you what they see every day, your eyes would roll back. And I'm going to rail on the insurance companies and the PBMs. And I'll tell you, I've worked with them. I have some really, really good friends who work for them. They're good people. They're just doing their job. Just like all of us, we have to make a living. And what I will say to all these people that I know, or even if I don't know you and you work in the beast, give me a call. You may not be able to speak out in the role that you're in. You may be trying to make your own change to push back a little bit, but you got to keep your job. Reach out to me. Tell me your story. I'll expose what's going on. It is ridiculous. I'm not taking the C-suite, which is the executives, or these board of directors off the hook. They know what they're doing. Our system is super complicated. And they do that on purpose. I have been told that. Their fiduciary duty, and if you don't know what a fiduciary duty is, that means that at the end of the day, by law, you have to take care, do your best to take care of a certain population or people. So like a physician's fiduciary duty is to his patient. An insurance company or PBM, their fiduciary duty is not to the patient, even though they are telling doctors what they can and cannot do. They're telling pharmacists what they can or cannot do. Their fiduciary duty is to their shareholder because they are a publicly traded company. Their shareholders hold them accountable to increase their revenue and increase their profit. And that is what they do while they tell you, oh, we're taking care of you and we're making the system better. Horseshit. So look, my resources. This isn't just me railing off, although it is. I read every day, 3 to 4 hours a day. My old job, I read 6 to 7 hours a day. I listen to tons of podcasts. I read the Wall Street Journal, Avalier, Kaiser Family Foundation. This is just a small snippet of the Congressional Business Office, very legitimate sources. But there are some really good podcasts out there. So the policy wonks in healthcare probably know them. Wendell Potter at Endpoints. He used to be the public relations director at Cigna, but he's like, I can't do this anymore. So he left them and he has a great newsletter and podcast that he does. I learn a ton from him. Adam Fine at Drug Channels is probably one of the best resources if you really want to get deep and know what the hell's going on. I believe he's an economist or a pharmacist. But what I do know is he's brilliant. I've learned a ton from him. He is amazing. All you got to do is hit Drug Channels. He'll come up. Antonio Chacha of 3 Axis Advisors is a pharmacist, and he has been railing against the pharmacy benefit managers. He's so effective that they have actually started a smear campaign against him. It's crazy. Brian Reed at Cost Curve is awesome. And my favorite podcast these days is Relentless Health Value, and is done by Stacy Richter. She is freaking unbelievable. And this is just a small sample. Look, we all have our jobs. You don't have time to read or listen to all this podcast. Maybe you should look into these, but that's my job. My job is to take all this information. It's super complicated and simplify it, which why the next podcast, it's all going to be about the money. I'm going to tell you what everybody's making, and then you can make your judgment who is stealing what. But at the end of the day, none of this shit matters unless you get involved. The murder of the guy from United Healthcare is horrible. And anybody with a heart or a brain or a conscience knows that it's bad. What shocked me, and then it didn't because I know what's going on, is the reaction to it, the vitriol that came from the public. That there was no sympathy for him and his family was shocking, but it's not, because people are struggling every day. People are being turned down. People can't afford healthcare, and they know that there are greedy corporations behind this. So at the end of the day, do the right thing, get involved in a productive way. Go to our website, listen to the podcast, reach out to your legislators or media, and help make a difference. God bless. And if you're watching on YouTube, I'll keep drinking my beer. See you later.